One and rolling. All right, so I am here today with Chandler Cutler. Chandler has been an entrepreneur all his life. Started his first company at 13 walking dogs, and then through his teenage years, did a whole bunch of different companies, lawn care, and eventually found his way into carpentry. In through carpentry, he found that he was often dissatisfied with the nature of business and the corporate world and wanted to change how that worked and change really just the general feel. And I'm losing my words already here. I haven't done this in a while. I needed to be sharper and I'm not. But practice makes perfect. So by the end of this impromptu season, we'll be a lot better. But change the culture in the corporate world. And so he has also launched Phenom Co., in which he is doing consulting with small businesses in how to make the culture better and, quite frankly, lives easier. I worked with Chandler myself. I will honestly say very quickly, he got me working less and my business more efficient. And it was a great experience overall. And even in this really weird time where the world's shut down, Chandler's been helping me out in terms of how to pivot and how to sort of, I guess, survive this shutdown, that's social isolation period. So with no further ado, here is Chandler. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It was not my best intro, and I will apologize for that. But
it's okay. It served me well.
Good. So with you, I know you've been sort of mixing, working with some carpentry still out in the GTA up until everything shut down this past week, and have also been doing, like I said, some of this small business consulting. So if you're okay with it, I would love to talk about some strategies that you've been employing with your small business consulting clients over the past little while, myself included, in terms of how we're going to best be able to, I don't want to say survive this, because quite frankly I know a lot won't, but how we can use this most effectively.
Sure. I think if you want to go strategic, tactical, strategic is be agile, be creative, be able to pivot and reinvent. I always compared smaller operations like sports cars and bigger operations like transports. You got to be able to U-turn easily when you get into trouble. Large corporations takes way more time, way more effort, more like a freight train than a transport truck, right? Those are sort of mid-sized businesses. So when you're one person, 5 people, 10 people, you might not be able to weather the storm, and we're definitely in that storm. One of the most recent stats that I've seen out of the US is if this lockdown or social distancing goes on for outside of 2 months, that 40% of small businesses will be closing their doors indefinitely, which is concerning for sure. There's a lot of concern about that. So what are some things that can help? What do people need? Talk to your clients, talk to your customers, get out on social media and make sure that they know that you're still there. Maybe not in the traditional sense, maybe not with the storefront, but a lot of restaurants are doing takeout windows or home deliveries. Fitness and yoga studios are doing online courses and things of that nature. Any instructional videos that you can do, and all of that guerrilla, tactical stuff that would be applicable. Letting people know that they care and listening to them in what their needs are and being able to satisfy those needs. No one's going to have a lot of money right now, so you're really going to have to extend your reach. With the ability of the web, maybe you reach into other markets that maybe are new to you, and you try to grab some land there. The good news is that the lights are going to come on tomorrow. It's just, you You'll be breathing. Will your company? Don't know.
And I know for myself and for a lot of other people, that is a kind of terrifying prospect in terms of there are people who have put tons of work, their lives into these companies. And, we're at a point where I've got to pay rent, whether or not I'm able to actually walk into that building and make any money out of the building. So it's certainly a tough time. And I know for us, we have talked about a lot of using the time. I might not be making money during the time, but at least building the brand, coming out with things like a podcast, things like instructional videos, and content pieces to help people through it, building, frankly, building reach so that when things do inevitably eventually start up again, that you've now got more of a following. And, one of the small joys of this is people are really captive to content right now because everybody's stuck at home. Everybody has an internet connection, but nobody has a lot else to do. And eventually Netflix gets kind of boring. So
well, and you can do both at once, right?
yeah,
People
exactly.
learn how to multitask. And however, it's a horrible, horrible thing to try to attempt to do. Humans are not built for multitasking. Don't take that as a recommendation. But can you binge on Netflix and scroll Instagram at the same time? Yeah, probably.
I've been
So
guilty of
yeah,
it,
absolutely.
especially this week.
So build your brand. That's for sure. That's something that we've definitely touched on. And if you have that rainy day fund that's going to carry you for 6 months, 100% double down on marketing. Market your ass off right now. Get out there, let them know who you are, what you do, what you stand for, and why you do what you do. And buy up that ad space, because those businesses that are going under and aren't going to be able to live to see that day, you're going to be grabbing all of that land and all of that market share in this time. Those smart businesses that tuck some money away and for just, well, I mean, no one predicted this, but something similar to this, where there was a downturn in the economy or a recession. We never could have expected this, but they had that cash flow to sort of fall back on, or that savings to fall back on. Those are the guys that are going to win, and win big. There's going to be, I mean, talking about a bigger game outside of just small business, there's going to be a lot of brands that are going to be able to be bought up at dirt cheap numbers and reinvented by the individuals that have that rainy day fund and have money, tucked away. For the small spaces, this will be a great opportunity to bring other entrepreneurs that maybe they weren't as successful in the space, but they're a great team member. So talk to those guys that are out there that used to have their own space or their own shops, and maybe they're getting underwater a little bit. You can help them out and bring a great resource and a great asset into your business, and help them out. And now one is now two, and you have an opportunity at sort of expanding or doubling your business by just bringing them under your wing. Great time for merger and acquisitions from that perspective, if you have the money to weather the storm. But that's another concept all of itself.
Well, and on the other hand, like for somebody who is in a spot where they have either a relatively new business or had, something else had hit them and they don't have necessarily the money,
Yeah,
the acquisition part might almost be a good thing to start looking for if you've got some
sure.
reasonable partners that you could see yourself working with,
Yep.
because that's going to be just another way of trying to survive. It might not be necessarily the most ideal, but if you're in a point where 2 months from now, if the world hasn't started again, it's probably better to do that than to fall apart.
For sure. And I mean there isn't going to be as much money flowing in the economy tomorrow as there was yesterday, right? And that's going to be an ongoing theme for I mean, I think we can all reasonably say a couple of months on the short side. So pairing up with them and jumping on board with them and helping them to be successful when in turn allowing you to sort of keep your head above water and pay the bills. Maybe you're not hanging out at home and quarantining the flies digs, but you're able to pay the bills and keep the lights on. And that's a really, really good strategy to weather the storm.
Well, yeah, and exactly. I think we're all going to have to make a couple sacrifices here and there and do what we have to survive all this.
Right.
On another sort of a slight tangent from that, though, is everybody does have a lot of time at this point. And in terms of having time, it's a little hard to say when things are going to open up again, obviously. But great time to start planning for things too when things open up in business, and not just necessarily look at how do I get through the next couple days, but when things open up again, what am I going to do? Are there any exercises or activities or books or anything that you really wish more entrepreneurs had the time or took the time to do that now they don't have an excuse not to?
Yeah, for sure. So like we sort of opened with, lowering that overhead and getting those expenses down as low as possible. Well, if you have staff, if you have employees, treating them with respect and care and consideration, and just communicating with them and letting them know where you're at and what your plan is, and hearing their concerns, and if you've got to lay them off, make sure that you're communicating with the most compassion, kindness, and empathy that you possibly can. And then go and take a deep dive into how you can introspective look, self-awareness, and what you need to improve upon. There's so much material out there. There's so many online courses. A lot of them are going for ridiculously low numbers because these influencers and individuals that run these programs know that there's a whole lot of money to be grabbed right now. But if they can just do it en masse, maybe they can stay afloat too. So really good opportunity to build your culture and frame that out in what that looks like. Get information from your previous employees and people that you work with to give you feedback on what you can improve on as a leader and as an individual that runs a company. It's not a dry cough, I promise. But that's
on the other side of the screen. I'll be okay one way or another.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. I got my little mesh thing over the mic here.
I'm glad you're practicing safe interviewing.
Yeah, it's N95. We're good. So taking that and having an introspective look at who you are and where you're going. Maybe you don't like the way that your business was going. Great opportunity to pivot and go in another direction. If you're shedding that weight and you're getting lean, as some people are in their home gyms or working under their own body weight, you can do that with your business as well. You can look at what you did and you didn't like, what your customers were concerned about and what they appreciated, and take that in another direction and really build out those processes and protocols. Because if there's one thing that I learned running my own business for the last 20 odd years, excuse me, is I should cough from my elbow. I apologize. Is that you fail to the level of your systems, you don't rise to the level of your goals. And as cliche as that sounds, it's truer than ever today. If you weren't stashing away money so that you could weather the storm, this is what happens. So reflecting on what I did yesterday that got me to today is really, as depressing as it may be, if you're in a negative situation, you can really turn that around and say, okay, this happened. That's great. It was a learning lesson. It's never going to happen again. And I'm going to build processes and protocols so that when the doors do open back up, I'm new and improved. And this isn't going to happen again. And then if this does, you're in a better position. You can look at your customer service. You can look at your customer experience, because those are two different things. The experience that your customer has when they come into the store or shop or deal with you is very different from when they leave. And that's your customer service, is sort of focusing on those two details. And I almost argue being in a leadership and communication um, position, that it's even more important that you love on your employees. And the sooner that you realize that you work for them and they don't work for you, the sooner you're going to turn around your business, and it's going to flourish when those doors open back up.
Well, and a great point to start and end on, because one thing I've noticed online over the past couple weeks is just how much backlash from companies that have been not handling this well in terms of treating employees and making sure everything's done right for them, which is great to see in a lot of ways, because there isn't always that focus on how the lowest people in the company are treated. And it's really come to light. And you touching on that really ties in with how much, well, how important it is, I think, in general, but how much focus has been put on it lately too.
So you look at companies, and I mean, not that I want to, shed the light on individual brands, but Lazy Boy, they've shut down their operations and pushed everyone to the EI lines. And you look at Rogers and Apple, and they've said, you know what, we know we're in tough times. We're going to continue to pay you. We're, for those on commission, we're gonna continue to pay you your average commission from January and February, and we're gonna be there for you because you were there for us, and you allow us to make the money that we make. We would be nothing without you, and we don't know what it's going to look like in 2 or 3 weeks, so we'll readdress it then. But just know for now, this is where we stand. And it's that kind of communication, that kind of leadership. Leader of Marriott Hotels came out and did an open video, and it got shared across social media, saying how he doesn't know what tomorrow brings, but he knows that these are the steps that we're going to take to move forward. It's that communication that needs to be in play. Leaders need to start treating their people as though they would want to be treated, and not the Jack Welch hack and slash layoffs and let the blood run in the streets type of management that was coming out of the 80s. It's a new day, and we need to start leading with more compassion and empathy.
And if anything does come from everything going on here, I'm hoping that is going to be one of the big things that comes out of it. And it seems like so far, one of the biggest impacts that the whole shutdown has exactly that. It's been highlighting who's really good at that and who's not.
Right.
And I think that will, not that I know any better than any of these guys, but I think that's going to be what carries some brands through, is their ability to be compassionate leaders versus the brands that I think a lot of people are going to forget, because like I said before, everybody's really captive to content right now. And I think everything's going to be magnified. If a brand handles something horribly, then people are going to really pay attention, because frankly, we've got nothing better to pay attention to. And if a brand does something really well, again, I think people are going to take note and probably remember it beyond all this.
And they should. The world is watching now more than ever, with reviews and social media and the way things get moved around so quickly, for sure. And I run a company, and I know that sometimes you want a little accent forgiveness on some things, but it's how you handle things, it's how you treat your people. That's what gets remembered. People may forget that their chair wasn't as sturdy as it was, or it should have been when they brought it home, but they will remember that the company sent a tech out to fix it up and make sure it was right. Or when they brought it back, they didn't argue with them about the product. They just handed them a new one, said, you know what, I hope this serves you better. And I think that type of communication, that type of care, needs to be carried forward into how we treat our people.
Absolutely. And you know what, honestly, I think that is an excellent kind of topic to leave off on. From here, I know Phenom is offering, I think, a 30-minute consult with any small businesses, especially local to the Ottawa Valley area. But I don't know if you've set any limits on that either.
No,
Where
not really.
so
If you if you're struggling and you want to have a chat about tactical or strategic uh, things that you want to work on with your company, by all means, phenomengine.com. Check us out and book a 15-minute consultation. I'll give you 15 minutes for another 15 minutes for free. I know how hard it can be.
that's going to be in the show notes for everybody listening along and wants to check that out. I honestly, I cannot recommend enough that you take advantage of that. Sit down, talk about how you can either streamline or shift. Um, I have not spent any time with you that hasn't been of great value to me. And if it's free and it's going to help you out over the next who knows how long, uncertain amount of time, then I think it's ridiculous not to take advantage of that. So highly recommend reaching out to Chandler. Phenomengine.com will be in the show notes. Get your business optimized for the coming times and come up with a plan for how to exit that too. Thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it, and I hope this has been helpful to everybody watching and listening, so that you guys can have some ideas in terms of how to take your next steps. Have a great night, guys.